Hi, thank you for tuning in today to Front Porch Conversations. I'm glad you joined us, and I'd like to introduce you to our guest, Rosemary Eakins. Rosemary, thank you so much for coming and sitting down and visiting with me.
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Rosemary, you're one of the few people that I met before you came to live at Advent Christian Village.
You did?
Yes, I remember you visiting your mother.
That's right.
And we had a chance, she wanted to introduce you to me while you were visiting.
Yes.
So that goes back quite a long time.
Yeah, it does.
Tell our guests, our visitors, where you live.
I live in Carter House, and I'm on the first floor, which I love, and I live near the trash chute. But it's kind of easy because all I have to do is open my door, go around the corner, and there it is. So it's
all the
very easy. Yeah. And
I don't think anybody has ever told us that before.
No, that it's nice being near the trash chute. Well, and when my mother was alive, I would just go up the hall, go up the elevator, down the other hall, and go visit her. And when my Aunt Mary was here too, she was just up the stairs. So I'd say, I'm going to come get you. So I'd go up the stairs because she was right next door to there. And I'd go get her, and then we'd go down to Mom's, and we'd get together for coffee. That was nice.
You've had a long history, your family has at the village.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, my father was an Advent Christian minister, and he was called to Live Oak to pastor when I was about 13, 14. And so I went to Camp Swanee, and I went there 2 years, and that's about the time when I started getting less shy because I was so afraid to talk to anybody. And it seemed like here in Live Oak, all the kids in high school were so friendly to me, where in the city, they were not. And so I just kind of was able to open up and make friends, and it was very, very nice. And I was kind of sad when my dad was called away to someplace else.
Did you live here for how long?
2 years. 2 years. And then we went to an Advent Christian church in Alabama. And then he got sick, and we went back to Clearwater. We went to a Advent Christian church there. And but I wound up, then I got married. Am I jumping ahead of what you wanted to ask?
Well, you have to be born. So let's start with where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Laconia, New Hampshire, and we lived there for about 4 years. And there's a very interesting story about my birth. Would you like to hear it?
I'd like to hear that.
I was born the youngest of 3 girls. And I was born with a condition called neurofibromatosis. And in 1954, it was very, very rare. Now it's better known. But they knew nothing about it in New Hampshire. And so they sent me and my dad over to Boston. And the doctor told my father, this child is not going to amount to anything. She's going to be mentally retarded, and you need to put her in an institution. And my father said, oh no, I'm not going to do that. He said, I'm going to take this child home. She's my daughter, and I'm going to treat her like I do my other daughters. And so he did, and I grew up just fine, apparently. They also said that I would probably die before I was 13. Well, I'm almost 68 now.
And good for you.
So I did show them. They said I wouldn't be very smart, and I did very well in school. And I used to play the piano until I just got to where I had stage fright really bad. And but I'm creative, and talented in different ways, with crafts and all. I like a lot of different crafts. So as far as that goes, I kind of blew their theory away. And
it's, and looking back and hearing other people's stories, and even longer in history, it's been a shame, things that have not, people, but it's really amazing, the human spirit and people who,
and I have
had to have
a lot of surgeries, but none of them have been a cancerous one or anything. I wasn't able to have children because of it, but the Lord gave us my husband and I, the opportunity to take care of mentally ill in our home. And that was a real adventure for us. And it also turned out to be a blessing. And so it was good.
So would you say growing up, you only lived where there were Advent Christian churches?
Yes. That's where we primarily did go. I mean, and we were going to church no matter what. I can remember one surgery I had, and they had taken a bunch of stuff off of my face, and I had this big bandana around my head, and I had spiky hair coming out the top and coming down here and everything, and I was 11. I didn't want to be seen at church because there was 2 boys there that I liked. And I was embarrassed. I said, Daddy, please don't make me go to church today. I don't want to go looking like this. And he says, you're going to church. Well, my mom said, Aubrey, let her stay home. And he finally acquiesced and let me stay at the house that Sunday. That was it, just the one. And after that, I had to go back after that bandage was taken off. But we went every time the doors were open, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Thursday night choir practice, Friday night youth fellowship. I mean, if the doors were open, we were there.
Rosemary,
yes.
You were baptized at what age?
I was 8 years old.
And by your father?
No. The reason that my father was very great with swimming and stuff when we would go to the beach. And Earl Waterman was always dunking us kids. So I don't know why I wanted him to baptize me when he was always ducking us kids under the water. But he was our youth director and everything. And I just thought, I want him to baptize me. I don't know why he baptized my 2 sisters, but my father did. But I kind of wanted Mr. Waterman. And I was so close to my father. I mean, I was a daddy's girl. I followed him everywhere. But I had to have Earl Waterman baptize me.
Now, is there a tie to Earl here at the village now?
He and my father were very close. And Earl Waterman led my grandfather to the Lord, my mom's father. And so we are our hearts are with Earl Waterman. And of course, George Waterman looks just like his dad. And George took care of my oldest sister when she was a little baby. And so we've got ties to that family.
Who live right outside of the village here, the Advent Christian Village.
Yes.
See, I say it's a very small world.
Oh, absolutely.
When you look at the Advent Christian denomination and lots of our other members and their connections to people.
And I come to find out that different people said, oh, we went to your house in St. Petersburg or in Clearwater. We saw you when you were a little girl. And I'm like, you did? I don't remember you. But, there's a difference between them being, 20 years old and seeing me and I was, just 5 or 6.
Now, you said you moved to St. Petersburg after you left here, or your father was church.
Yes.
Did you finish school in St. Petersburg?
I did not graduate at Live Oak. We moved to Alabama just before my senior year. And so I did my senior year by correspondence school, where that's what they called it back then. And so I did finish school, and it was, basically, it was kind of like a GED, but I did get a diploma, but I kind of missed the fact that I didn't get to do the cap and gown thing. But I still got to, I have my graduation. I did a little accounting for, a college, but it was too expensive. I couldn't complete that. But career-wise, the Lord led me to a Christian CPA in our church in Clearwater. And he needed a secretary. Well, we knew Ron and Deb Aldrich. They were in Clearwater for a while. She was pregnant and getting ready to have her baby. And so she asked me if I would like to work for him. And I said, I know nothing about accounting at all or bookkeeping. And she says, oh, I can train you. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm like, you think so? Well, she trained me to do it. And he was a very patient man. And if I had a question, he would answer it. And he said, if you have to ask me the same question 4 or 5 times, it's not going to bother me. But he wanted it done his way. He didn't want a college graduate who wanted to change his ways, I worked for him for 8 years, and then I went someplace where I could get, I went to a Methodist church, and I was the financial secretary there. And I needed benefits because I was needing more surgery. And so they had good benefits plus a pension. So I was there. And then I was asked if I wanted to work at the Baptist church where my Aunt Mary and Uncle Bud were going. And so I went over there, and they also had good medical insurance. So I moved along. In each place, I had a little more responsibility. So I was kind of solo secretary at those places. It was a lot of fun, kind of like I can't remember the name, but Susan. Yeah, what Susan does over there, Susan Darby.
Penny.
Yeah.
When did you meet your husband, and where?
I met him, this is a cute story. I met him in July of 1985 at a hair shop. I was getting a permanent, and my hair was all in those nice perm rollers where you look absolutely gorgeous. And he walked in and he wanted a haircut. And he told me, he says, when that lady started taking your hair down and it was going all the way down your back, I couldn't believe that you had long hair. He says, my mama, her hair was always short, up in those rollers. But anyway, we talked to each other, and I found out that he was a Christian and I was a Christian, and we liked a lot of the same things. And I said, so I had to leave because I had another appointment. So I said, well, I hope I get to meet you again sometime. So I left. Well, after that, the hairdresser called me, and she said, he wants you to call him. Here's his number. And I said, I don't call men. But, and she says, well, how about he calls you? And I said, how about if he wants to see me, he comes to my church on Sunday. And sure enough, that Sunday I got up from playing the piano and I went to sit down, and I see somebody sitting way in the back, and they're going like this, waving their hand. And it was my husband. And he asked me if I wanted to go and visit his church that evening. And I did. Then we sat in Steak and Ale Perkins. And we sat and drank Diet Coke until 3 o'clock in the morning because they were open 24 hours. And we talked and talked and talked. And then we just started dating. And he proposed, okay, mind you, this is July. He proposed in August. And we got married in October. So it was a very short engagement. People started talking and thought, something had happened, which it didn't. And but everything fell into place. I found a dress. The girl in the bridal shop said, "There's no way you're going to get a dress at this short time." She says, "At your size, you're just not going to," because I was a size 18. And she says, "Oh, wait a minute." She says, "There's a bride that just canceled her wedding." So she went in the back, brings out a dress, and it fit me like it was made for me. My mom started crying. My grandmother starts crying. And they said it was just beautiful and it looked just right on me. And I liked it. It had little roses on it. And of course, with my name being Rosemary, it was perfect. And then the bridesmaids, my two sisters, and Laureen Fuller was one of my bridesmaids. And their gowns happened to match the neckline of mine. And everything just fell into place so perfectly. And one of the our clients with the CPA was a florist. She donated my flowers.
Wow.
And my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, did the cake, the wedding cake, so I didn't have to pay for a wedding cake. And I mean, so we saved so much expense. And and my bride's dress, instead of being like $2,000, was $700, something like that. Very inexpensive. And I got an $80 veil, which is one I had looked at before I even met my husband. So anyway, the Lord blessed it. And we were married for 30 years before he died of a heart attack. And so some people gave us 6 months because they said we got married too quickly. But it lasted.
Yes.
And he was very, very good to me. We had a good marriage.
And Rosemary, you alluded to earlier, you cared for people with mental handicaps in your home.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about
that? My husband was a block mason when I met him, and he was laying a lentil with another guy, and the floor was wet. And the other guy accidentally kind of dropped his end, and my husband slipped on the water and hurt his back really bad. It kind of messed up 3 vertebrae, and he refused to have any surgery, and so he couldn't do block anymore. So he started wearing a back brace all the time, and he started looking in the paper for something that he could do. And there was this notice in the paper for caregivers because they were closing down all the mental hospitals. And he asked me, he said, "Honey, what would you think about letting some of these mentally ill live with us? And we help them to become a part of the community again." And I said, "I think that would be really cool. I would like to do that and, help them out. If it was me, I would want somebody to help me." So we started out with one. And as that worked out, the agency asked us if we would take another. So we got up to the point where we had 2 women and 2 men, and they each shared a bedroom. And it worked out really well. And through the years, we had, different ones, but we had 2 gentlemen that committed suicide. And that was really, really difficult for us. And so we decided, plus the men you would think the women would be the moody ones. It wasn't. It was the men. And so my husband decided that, we were in it for the money anyway. So we decided that we would just take a total of 2 and let the women each have 1 bedroom. And then, they could decorate the bedroom the way they wanted and, anything they wanted. And they would go with us if we would go to dinner. If we went to our mom's house for dinner, they would come along. It was just like family. If my husband and I wanted to go out to the Chinese steakhouse, they'd come along,
Well, that was a wonderful
yeah, we
service
really
that you
enjoyed
provided
it.
for them.
We loved it. We really did. It was, I mean, even though they were adults, it was a fulfillment for us because of not having children. It was really nice. Sometimes it was pretty tough, but I mean, all in all, it was nice.
Rosemary, you talked about your mother and your aunt living here. Did they come at the same time?
No, my mom was here for quite a while, probably about 4 years. And she was very close to Jean Fuller. And then Jean died. And soon after that, my husband died. And then I came up. And Ben, my Aunt Mary's husband, died a year after my husband died. And so my mom kind of talked to Aunt Mary. She said, why don't you come down to Florida and be near me? And so Aunt Mary put in her application, and here she comes down, and she's right upstairs from me. And so we three were together for about 3 years, and then my mother died. And so it was me and Aunt Mary for a couple of years, and then Aunt Mary started missing her grandchildren, her boys and her grandchildren, and she just wanted, I mean, she was 94, and she says, I know I don't have forever to live, and I want to see my kids and be with them. And so she's up there at the age she is, picking blueberries and wildflowers and everything, and I'm lucky to bend over and get back up without losing my balance.
Well, but you have a lot of other interests. Would you share with us one of your interests and how it got started?
One of my interests is in miniatures, and it's like doing the dioramas, and is that what you called it? Yeah. And I also did a dollhouse when I was very young, and with all my hospital visits and everything. When I couldn't go outside, I would get shoe boxes and little matchboxes, and I would make doll rooms inside the shoe boxes and use matchboxes and build little furniture out of, just stuff like that. And but my mom and dad, they couldn't afford to give one of us kids a dollhouse and not the others. And since I had 2 older sisters, so when I married my husband, I was telling him how much I enjoyed doing that when I was little. So for our first wedding anniversary, he gave me a dollhouse kit, and I wound up, changing it around, and I added a bay window in the kitchen, because the kitchen was this one long room with no windows in it, and I'm like, how am I supposed to see to wash dishes if it doesn't have a window? And so I cut out the side and put in a bay window in it, and that was nice.
But since then, you've created lots of.
I have created little boxes or dioramas, and one of the ones that I did, all the other ones seemed to be pristine. I did some of them in cigar boxes. I did a mud room, so somebody could put do flowers. But I wanted to do something that was just dirty and dusty and, run down. So I did an old mountain recluse's shack. And I built a box, and I used pebbles from our roof. When it would rain really, really hard, we'd lose pebbles off our roof. And so I would just go outside and grab as many as I thought I needed, and I used those to build the fireplace in this thing.
And our viewers will get to see that as part
yes.
of this.
And I put the walls up, but then what I did is I just tore the wood instead of cutting it nice and straight. I tore it, and then I painted glue and water and dirt from our yard, so it would look all dirty and ratty and stuff. And like the walls were leaking rain.
Sure.
You know, it just wasn't a very well-built place.
But it's a very interesting thing to see.
It is.
It shows off your creativity.
Yes.
And I know that you've had them exhibited here at the village and also at the library.
Yes, and it was exhibited at a show down in Clearwater, and it got a full page in a miniatures magazine, which I was like, oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yes. So
well, Rosemary, I know that you volunteer here at the village.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
I volunteer at Riverside Gifts every Friday, and I really enjoy it. And I've never done retail before in my life, but it's fun. It really is enjoyable. Always before I was working after the fact, after they spent the money. And now I'm doing it when they spend the money. So that's really fun. It's nice. I meet a lot of people that they say, oh, I know who you are. I've seen you wherever. And I'm like, oh, what's your name?
I think that's a question a lot of us have. I know your face.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you so much today for tuning in to Front Porch Conversations, and thank you for visiting with me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
And look for us on future episodes of Front Porch Conversations.